discover the incredible moment when a black maid transformed a millionaire's blind son's life forever. In the heart of a wealthy suburb of Chicago, during the late 1980s, the air was thick with possibility and stark reality. Clara, a strong and resilient black maid in her late 30s, navigated the polished marble floors of the lush McKinley estate. Under her care was Ethan, the 10-year-old blind son of the family. The connection between them was palpable, a bond built on trust and mutual understanding amid a world filled with privilege and prejudice. Every day was an intricate dance. Clara taught Ethan how to maneuver around the sprawling rooms and vast yard, her patient voice guiding him like a lighthouse in a storm. "Feel the railing, Ethan," she would instruct, her heart full of hope. "It'll lead you to the garden." With each step he took, he learned that the world could be both beautiful and challenging, and she was there every moment to show him the way. Every laugh of Ethan's brought joy to Clara's heart, but it also reminded her of the harsh glances from the elite homeowners who believed her presence was an affront to their wealth. They whispered as if she couldn't hear, their disdain washing over her like an unwanted tide. But she stood tall, determined not to let their opinions diminish her spirit or the important work she was doing with Ethan. One afternoon, as sunlight filtered through the grand windows and cast rainbow prisms onto the floor, Clara and Ethan sat together on the plush carpet. "Someday, I want to ride a bike with you, Clara," Ethan declared, the thrill of possibility lighting up his voice. Clara smiled, her heart swelling. Moments like this filled her with purpose. "We'll go to the park, just you and me," she promised, her eyes glimmering with dreams unspoken. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As they dreamed together, a storm brewed on the horizon. Ethan's father, domineering and arrogant, he saw Clara as nothing more than a cog in the machine of his family's wealth. When he discovered the depth of Clara and Ethan's bond, anger boiled over. "What do you think you're doing, influencing him like this?" he snapped, his voice slicing through the warmth of the afternoon. In that moment, Clara's heart sank. She had always wanted Ethan to find his strength, but now the shadow of doubt loomed over them. Ethan stood between his father and Clara, his small body trembling, torn between love and obligation. "You don't understand what she has taught me," he shouted, voice cracking with emotion. For a moment, time held its breath. Clara watched, clinging to hope, unsure if this confrontation would end in acceptance or even deeper divides. A silence stretched, thick and heavy. Clara's chest tightened as she realized that their bond, while powerful, might not be enough to break through the barriers of class and prejudice. Would love and resilience prevail in a world so often designed to tear them apart? As Clara contemplated their shifting destinies, she knew one thing: this was just the beginning of a battle neither of them had anticipated. Ethan's father took a step forward, eyes narrowed like a hawk searching for prey. Clara could feel the air shift, the oppressive weight of judgment hanging in the balance of that moment. Her heart raced, every instinct urging her to protect the bond they had nurtured. "Ethan, listen to me," he said sharply, voice booming with authority. "This woman is not your friend. She is employed to take care of you and nothing more." Clara's insides twisted at the dismissal, the coldness in his tone a bitter reminder of her place in this world. "No!" Ethan shouted again, defiance sparkling in his young voice, a strength so atypical for his age. "Clara knows me. She helps me. You don't get it." The house felt like it was closing in on them, the tall ceilings suddenly too high, the expansive room seeming to mock their confrontation. Clara felt her resolve harden as she stepped closer to Ethan, a protective instinct sparking within her. "Mr. McKinley," she said, her voice steady and strong, "I am here to help your son, to teach him how to live in a world that can be cruel towards difference. I would never hurt him." The use of his title felt formal and distant, highlighting the gulf that lay between them. His face contorted, anger flashing in his eyes. "Teaching him? You think you're teaching him? You're filling his head with fantasies," he snapped, his words like arrows aimed at Clara's very being. The tension in the room surged. It felt as if the air had become electrified. Clara stood firm. "No, sir. I'm teaching him to fly. I'm teaching him that the world can be his, blind or not." Ethan reached for Clara's hand, gripping it as if it were a lifeline. The warmth of his small fingers ignited something deep within her. She couldn't let this man snuff out the light they were building together. Quiet returned, but only for a moment, as Mr. McKinley's gaze flickered towards Ethan, unsure of his own son's loyalty. There was a flicker of fear, but also stubbornness. "I will not have this nonsense in my house, Clara," he said gruffly as he turned to storm away. The hollow sounds of his footsteps echoed through the halls, leaving uncertainty in his wake. With Ethan still holding her hand tightly, Clara felt that tug of hope return. "You did good, Ethan. You were brave." But inside, she trembled. She didn't know what would happen next. Would Mr. McKinley try to separate them? Would he rescind Ethan's chances to try new things, to explore the world about him? "I just wish he could see you like I do, Clara," Ethan said, his voice small, filled with a longing that struck at Clara's very core. "You're more than just a maid." Tears pricked at the corners of Clara's eyes. In that moment, she understood the depth of their bond. But fear nipped at her heels. She was not just a maid, she was Ethan's ally, his teacher, and now, his shield against a storm that seemed ever more inevitable. Still holding on to the fragile hope, Clara whispered, "One day he will. One day, we will prove that love is stronger than hate." As they sat in the silent aftermath of the confrontation, Clara wondered how she would keep their world intact when darkness threatened to engulf them. Tomorrow was uncertain, but the fight for Ethan's future had only just begun. And so, with determination bubbling beneath the surface, Clara resolved to show Ethan the wonders waiting outside those oppressive walls. But could she withstand the storm brewing within the McKinley estate? Ethan sat quietly, his small hand still wrapped around Clara's. They lingered in the high-ceilinged room, the shadows of the encroaching evening stretching long across the floor, magnifying the tension in the air. Clara could feel the weight of her own uncertainty, but she wrapped her other hand over Ethan's, a silent promise not to let him go. "Can we go outside now?" Ethan asked, his voice breaking the heavy silence like a fragile whisper. "What about your dad?" Clara replied, glancing towards the door, as if expecting Mr. McKinley to burst back in at any moment, ready to banish her from Ethan's life completely. Ethan shrugged, determination lining his small face. "He'll be fine. He always is." There was an unshakable confidence in his tone. Clara marveled at how a child so young could possess such clarity. It made her heart swell and break all at once. "Okay," she said, finally yielding to his desire. They needed to escape the oppressive walls that held so much doubt and disdain. "Let us go find some light." They made their way down the plush carpeted stairs, Ethan leading the way. Clara trailed behind, sensing the weight of every step they took. As they pushed through the heavy back door, the world opened up to them. The garden glimmered with gold and green under the gentle caress of the setting sun. Ethan's face lit up, the shadows of their earlier confrontation trembling away in the warmth of twilight. "Look!" he exclaimed, pointing to a buzzing cluster of fireflies that danced in the air. "They're magic." Clara smiled at his wonder. They are indeed, Ethan. They show us that even in darkness, there can be light. As they wandered further into the garden, Ethan paused to bend down, hesitant fingers barely grazing the delicate petals of the flowers. Can we pick these? Only if we're gentle, Clara reminded him, watching as he turned to her, wide-eyed. They're living too, you know. Ethan nodded seriously, his brow furrowed in concentration. With careful movements, they gathered a handful of blossoms, the colors becoming a representation of their fragile hope. Each flower felt like a promise, a reminder of the beauty they could still find together. But as they strolled deeper into the garden, Clara's mind kept wandering back to Mr. McKinley's harsh words. How could she provide for Ethan's dreams when his father saw her as nothing more than a shadow in their lives? What if I failed to protect him? She thought, her heart heavy again with doubt. Ethan's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. Clara? Yeah, she said, looking down at him. Do you think we can go to the park one day? I want to see the trucks and the kids, and his voice trailed off, gentle excitement bubbling beneath the surface. Of course we can, Clara said, pushing aside her worries for a moment. We'll find a way. Every adventure begins with a dream, and yours is just as big as the sky. His eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, and for a brief instant, the weight of the situation lost its grip on Clara. But that relief quickly faded, as she remembered the storm brewing just beyond the garden gate. Ethan, she began, and hesitated. Would she be able to convince Mr. McKinley to let him explore the world? Would he even consider listening to her at all? I just want you to see everything, Clara, Ethan said, his tiny hand squeezing hers amidst the blossoms. His trust ignited a flicker of determination within her. I promise we'll try, no matter what. As twilight fell, and darkness crept back into the edges of their sanctuary, they shared a moment of soft laughter, but Clara couldn't help but wonder what the morning would bring. Would Mr. McKinley's rage turn more destructive? Would he pull the reins tighter around Ethan, locking him away from the world and the wonders waiting just outside? With a heart full of hope weighed against a mind heavy with dread, Clara looked down at Ethan's innocent eyes. She knew their fate was intertwined. She had to protect him, even if it meant facing the fiercest of storms alone. But as stars began to twinkle, a new thought struck her. What if she found allies in this battle? Allies who believed in love as deeply as she and Ethan did? The question lingered. Would she find the strength to fight? Would she reach out to others willing to stand beside them? Only time would tell. Clara and Ethan found a small bench tucked within the embrace of the garden, the leaves swaying gently as if whispering secrets only the night could understand. Ethan settled in beside her, still clutching the handful of blooming flowers like they were treasures. He leaned back, his eyes sparkling under the growing blanket of stars, clearly enamored by the world around him. Do you think my dad will let me keep these? Ethan asked, holding the flowers to his little chest. They're beautiful, just like you said. Clara felt her heart constrict at the mention of Mr. McKinley. We can plant them in the garden, right here. It'll be our little secret. She tried to lift the mood, imagining how the flowers might bloom next spring, brightening the dark corners of the yard. Ethan's bright smile returned. And then we can have a picnic, with peanut butter sandwiches and juice boxes, just like at the park. Clara chuckled lightly, picturing the day filled with laughter and joy, a stark contrast to the weight of reality pressing on her shoulders. That sounds perfect. You and me, just enjoying the sun and the flowers. But even as she painted that hopeful picture, chill crept back into her thoughts as the evening deepened. Clara's pulse quickened. But what if he says no? She wondered, anxiety coiling in her stomach. She desperately wanted to believe that tomorrow could be brighter, but the shadows of uncertainty loomed large. Clara, do you think they know we're here? The flowers, I mean? Ethan asked, a hint of seriousness in his tone that belied his young age. Know we're here? Clara echoed, glancing sideways at him. His curiosity was refreshing amidst her dark thoughts. Well, I think they feel it. Just like we can feel the wind or the warmth of the sun. Every living thing knows when someone cares for it. Then we'll take care of them really well. Ethan exclaimed, his conviction brightening the air around them. We'll show them how much fun it is to live and grow. His optimism tugged at Clara's heart. How could she teach him about growth and resilience when she was grappling with her own doubts? Just then, the soft sound of shuffling footsteps interrupted their moment. Clara's pulse raced at the intruder's approach, but as she turned, she was met by a familiar face, Evelyn, the elderly gardener who tended to the estate. Oh dear! What are you two doing out here? Evelyn's smile was warm, her voice soothing like a balm. Just collecting flowers, Clara said, attempting to mask her worried expression with optimism. Well, it looks like you're poaching my favorites. Evelyn gave a playful frown, then knelt beside them. But if you promise to help me plant them in a better spot, I'll let you keep them. Really? Ethan's eyes widened, excitement dancing in his voice. Clara exchanged a glance with Evelyn, seeing an ally where she least expected it. We promise. We'll take care of them. Good, Evelyn said. But be careful with your hearts, children. Not every flower blooms. There was something behind her eyes, a depth of understanding that stirred memories of her own struggles. Clara felt a connection form in that moment, a shared bond of resilience. Perhaps the gardener might provide more than just gardening tips. Maybe she could help guide them in navigating Mr. McKinley's harsh world, too. As they talked about their plans, Clara's hope began to blossom alongside the flowers in Ethan's hands. Yet, a flicker of dread ignited in the back of her mind, reminding her of the challenges that lay ahead. When they finally stood to leave, Ethan held the flowers tightly, and Evelyn rested a hand on Clara's shoulder. Whatever you two face, just know you're not alone. Clara nodded, warmth spreading through her. It was a promise not just from Evelyn, but from herself. She would fight for Ethan, for their dreams, and she would explore every possible path to protect him. As they slipped back into the house, Clara's heart raced with renewed determination. But beyond the safety of the garden walls lay questions that loomed in the darkness. How much of a fight would this be? Would she truly find others willing to stand beside them against Mr. McKinley? Tomorrow promised to be an unveiling. A step deeper into their battle, and perhaps a revelation that could change everything. The sun spilled over the horizon, painting the sky in soft oranges and pinks. Clara woke up, her heart tethered to the day ahead. She couldn't shake off the weight of everything that had been said last night. The promise to plant the flowers, to care for them, felt like the first step towards something bigger. Ethan burst into her room, his energy radiating with the same warmth the new day offered. Clara, can we go outside now? His voice was bright, undeterred by the worries that clouded Clara's mind. Sure, just give me a minute, she replied, pulling herself out of bed. Clara slipped into a simple dress, the fabric soft against her skin. As she moved to open the window, the scent of fresh earth and dew wafted in, coaxing a smile from her lips. This was the beauty she wanted Ethan to see the world as potential despite everything else. They headed to the garden, Ethan leading the way, giddy and full of dreams. Clara's heart swelled with adoration, but an undercurrent of fear twisted within her. What if today didn't go as planned? Look at our spot, Ethan exclaimed, pointing at the patch of earth. We can make it the best flower place ever. Yes, we can, Clara agreed, kneeling next to him as he clutched the blooms, bright and full of life. But even as they dug into the soil, moving dirt around with their hands, Clara's thoughts danced back to Mr. McKinley. The tight grip of the man's judgments, anger, and expectations weighed heavily on her. Do you think my dad will get mad? Ethan asked, a sudden shadow crossing his face. Clara paused, meeting his innocent gaze. "I think he'll be surprised," she said carefully, choosing her words like seeds to plant. "But sometimes, surprises can be good." Ethan nodded, but she noticed the uncertainty flicker in his eyes. Clara understood all too well how the unknown lingered, gnawing at hope and twisting it into fear. Their hands moved in rhythmic motion, the simple act of planting tiny seeds as comforting as any embrace. As they worked together, Clara felt a surge of joy. They were creating something, creating life amid the chaos of everything else. Hours slipped by, the sun climbing higher, bestowing warmth on their backs. As they took a break, she spotted Evelyn approaching, her usual cane tapping lightly against the stones. "Looks lovely already," Evelyn exclaimed, surveying their hard work with sparkling eyes. "Thank you." Ethan jumped up. "Can you help us make it really beautiful?" "Of course. You both have the heart for it." Evelyn knelt beside them, sharing with them tips on how to properly care for their newfound flowers. "Remember, love is what gives beauty to a garden. It's all about nurturing what you create together." Clara wanted to smile at the profound truth behind those words. But she caught a glimpse of the vast estate, the looming reality of Mr. McKinley, and her stomach knotted again. Suddenly, a sharp voice called out, "Ethan, what are you doing?" Clara looked up to see Mr. McKinley striding toward them, his expression a storm cloud ready to unleash. The world felt like it shifted, the air thickening with tension. Ethan's small fingers trembled as he clutched the flowers. "I just wanted to plant them." Clara felt her heart race, every instinct screaming to protect the boy. She stepped forward, forcing herself to appear calm, but inside, her worry flipped like a fish out of water. "Ethan loves flowers," Clara said, her voice steady, aiming to diffuse the situation. "And we thought no," Mr. McKinley cut her off, eyes narrowing. "You can't just go around planting things. It's not allowed." The words fell like a hammer, hitting Ethan with a disbelief so profound, Clara felt her own breath catch in her throat. "But they're beautiful," Ethan protested, his small voice the very definition of innocence. Without knowing why, Clara stepped closer to Ethan, defiantly meeting Mr. McKinley's gaze. "We just wanted to make the world around us a little brighter." The confrontation hung heavy, but as the moment stretched, Clara felt a glimmer somewhere deep within her. The resolve to stand strong began to unfurl. Yet, in the crossed arms and frown of Mr. McKinley, she sensed the brewing storm was far from over. The battle had just begun. Would they be allowed to fight for more than just flowers? Ethan's gaze darted from Clara to Mr. McKinley, confusion swirling like autumn leaves in the wind. Clara could feel the boy's heartbeat quicken, his little chest rising and falling with uncertainty. She wanted to shield him, to sweep him into a world where their joy wouldn't be crushed by harsh words or rigid rules. Mr. McKinley shuffled closer, a towering presence that cast a long shadow over their newly dug patch of earth. "You think just because you want to be fancy, everything should change?" he scoffed, his voice sharp and jagged. "No, sir," Clara began, her voice trembling just slightly. "We're not trying to be fancy. We just wanted to plant some flowers. To bring a little beauty?" Mr. McKinley interrupted, lips forming a sneer. "This estate has always been about order. You think flowers are going to fix everything? Your daydreams don't mean a thing here." A wave of anger coursed through Clara. It was raw and fierce, igniting something deep inside her. She remembered Evelyn's words about nurturing. "But what good is an ordered life if it's devoid of joy?" she challenged, surprising even herself with the strength in her voice. "These flowers can remind us there's more to life than just rules." Silence settled between them like dust in the sun. Mr. McKinley's expression hardened but flickered with uncertainty, just for a moment. Ethan squeezed Clara's hand, grounding her, and together, they faced the man who seemed to represent a world that felt more and more stifling. Enough of this nonsense. Mr. McKinley barked suddenly, his volume rising like a booming thunderclap. He shifted his focus to Ethan, kneeling down to meet his level. Ethan, listen to me. You don't need flowers to be happy. You need structure, discipline. Clara frowned, her heart sinking. She saw the seeds of doubt blooming in Ethan's eyes. But flowers they are alive. They're beautiful, Ethan exclaimed, a hint of desperation creeping into his voice. They can help us. Just like you always say about the roses, Dad. At the mention of roses, Mr. McKinley paused, a flicker of memory darting across his face. Something softened, but it quickly hardened again. You don't know what you're saying, he muttered. Yes, I do, Ethan retorted, the determination shining in his young eyes. This is our chance to create something together. Can't we try, please? The air felt charged, as if the clouds above were separately weighing in on the confrontation. Clara's heart raced. She could hear the clouds rumble, their own storm brewing, but she also felt Ethan's energy, a fierce little flame against the encroaching darkness. Maybe we should talk about this, Clara ventured, taking a breath to steady her own trepidation. Can't we compromise? A small patch for the flowers? Just to see what we can do. But even as she spoke, Clara wondered if compromise was a word Mr. McKinley could even grasp. His jaw clenched, eyes narrowing again. When I said no, I meant it. This isn't about a simple patch. This is about setting standards, Clara. You should understand that. Ethan's face fell, and Clara's stomach nodded further. The little boy's dreams were inching farther away with each impasse. They had fought for just this moment, for the right to create something beautiful, and yet it felt like the world was closing in. Maybe there really is a place for us to create, Clara whispered into the silence that followed. Her voice was softer now, approaching the vulnerability she felt. What if we took care of this together? Just like you always wanted to take care of us? Mr. McKinley flinched, a flash of uncertainty crossing his face. Just as quickly, the steely resolve returned. I will not allow this nonsense to complicate my life further. Learn your place, Clara. Crushed under the weight of his dismissal, Clara felt a tear threaten to escape the corner of her eye. But Ethan, still holding on to Clara's hand, spoke up in a steadier voice than she expected. But hope is still real, Dad. You can't just take it away. The tremor of truth slipped through Ethan's words, igniting questions that lingered long after the confrontation. Clara felt emboldened, even in the chaos. What if they didn't have to fight alone? What if, just maybe, their hearts could change things? As Mr. McKinley turned away, Clara knelt beside Ethan, their fingers digging into the dark earth that smelled so fresh, the same earth they hoped would soon cradle flowers. Can we find a way, Clara? Ethan's eyes sparkled, fragile yet fierce. Yes, Clara replied, pulling him close. We can find a way. Just then, from the corner of her eye, she noticed Evelyn approaching them again, her expression questioning, but hopeful. Clara's heart began to lift. Perhaps they wouldn't go through this battle alone. But as Evelyn reached them, her cane tapping softly on the stones, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that the fight for their flowers had only just begun. Would they find strength in each other to confront Mr. McKinley in ways they never expected? When Clara looked up at Evelyn, there was a warmth in the older woman's eyes that felt like sun breaking through the clouds. I saw the way he spoke to you, dear, she said gently, her cane tapping softly on the ground as she approached. Don't let his words take away your spirit. Ethan kept his grip on Clara's hand, squeezing it tighter, as if drawing courage from her presence. Evelyn knelt down beside them, her frail body leaning slightly against the garden plot. I remember when I had a dream, she began, pulling Clara's focus toward her. A garden, filled with colors that danced in the breeze. I wasn't allowed to touch the flowers either. But I learned something very important. Love can grow anywhere, even where it seems impossible. What do you mean, Miss Evelyn? Ethan asked, curiosity shining in his eyes. Evelyn smiled, her wrinkles deepening. There are so many ways to nurture life. Sometimes it's not just about planting seeds. It's about standing tall and defending what you believe in. You've got to push through those who don't see the beauty in it. Clara felt a flicker of hope rekindling within her. You're right. This isn't just about flowers. It's about making a stand for our happiness, for our family. Evelyn nodded. Exactly, my dear. We can't let fear keep us quiet. We need to show him the beauty you both want to create. We need to plan a real plan. What do you mean? Ethan asked, leaning in closer, his excitement mingling with confusion. Let us gather others. The neighbors, the people who understand what it's like to yearn for beauty in life. Flowers flourish in gardens, but they also flourish when rooted in community, Evelyn replied, her voice firm and steady. Clara's heart raced. Could it really be that simple? Even though she was filled with doubt, she could feel the warmth of possibility blooming within her. They could rally the support of others. They could start a movement, even if it began from a tiny plot of land. Suddenly, she imagined the smiling faces of neighbors, the laughter of children planting seeds alongside Ethan and herself. The estate could be a vibrant tapestry of colors and scents, filled with life rather than cold barriers. But what if Mr. McKinley wanted to listen? Ethan questioned, a shadow of worry crossing his brows. Evelyn placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Sometimes, love itself is the loudest voice, she said. You'll surprise him, just like you surprised me today. You've got something worth fighting for, and that passion will draw others in. Clara's mind swirled with ideas as a fresh determination blossomed within her. Perhaps they could create a gathering. They could hold an event to discuss beauty and community together, planting not just flowers, but seeds of understanding. Clara beamed down at Ethan, who seemed to pick up on her enthusiasm. Let us do it, he exclaimed, bouncing on the balls of his feet. We can call it the Garden of Hope. Evelyn chuckled softly. A beautiful name, young man. Garden of Hope, it has a ring to it. As the three of them sat together in the dimming sunlight, a new sense of camaraderie formed. Clara could almost hear the melody of laughter and chatter filling the air, the sweet scent of freshly dug earth mingling with the promise of things to come. Let us start planning tomorrow. We'll need signs, a gathering place. I can bake maybe some treats? Clara said, her mind racing through every detail. Yes. We can ask everyone we know. I can help. Ethan beamed, his earlier doubts fading like shadows in the dawn. Just as excitement surged, Clara spotted Mr. McKinley in the distance again, his figure outlined against the horizon. The tight knot of anxiety grew in her stomach. This wouldn't be easy. He was still the roadblock standing between them and their dream. But she reminded herself of Evelyn's words. Together, they would find their strength and face him again. As the sun dipped lower, the warmth of possibility wrapped around Clara and Ethan, filling their hearts. In that moment, they dared to believe that hope could indeed thrive, even in the harshest of landscapes. Little did they know, their endeavors would bring more surprises than they ever anticipated. What if, alongside flowers, they also uncovered hidden gems within their community? Evelyn brushed her hands over the soft earth, as if to imprint a patch of hope into its very fibers. Clara exchanged glances with Ethan, both feeling the power of their united resolve. This is our chance, Clara whispered, her voice barely above the rustling leaves. The next day dawned bright and vibrant, like a blank canvas awaiting strokes of color. Clara bounced out of bed, with excitement bubbling in her chest. Ideas flooded her mind as she prepared breakfast. If we're going to pull this off, We'll need a plan, she muttered to herself, glancing at the calendar. Ethan arrived early, practically jumping on the doorstep. What is first? What do we do? His enthusiasm was contagious, making Clara grin widely. Let us start with the flyer, Clara said, setting up at the kitchen table. She gathered all the supplies she could find, colorful paper, markers, and glue sticks. They scribbled bright letters, outlining their event. Garden of Hope, join us for a day of planting, community, and love. Ethan read out loud, his voice filled with determination. They spent the morning distributing flyers to their neighbors. The warm greetings and smiles they received ignited a newfound energy. Each person who took a flyer was another layer of support beneath their wings. Clara felt a giddy rush as she pictured the garden bursting with life, children laughing, adults sharing stories, and the sweet smell of baked goods wafting through the air. Just as they were finishing up, a familiar voice echoed from behind them. Well, I see someone is stirring the pot, Mr. McKinley remarked dryly, leaning against his fence. His arms crossed, frowning at the colorful chaos emanating from Clara and Ethan. Mr. McKinley, Clara exclaimed, her heart skipping a beat. We're organizing a community event. It's a chance for everyone to come together and celebrate beauty and nature. He raised an eyebrow, still skeptical. And you think people want to dig in the dirt instead of working? Actually, Ethan piped in, stepping forward with unexpected boldness. Some people think it's important to create beauty, even if it's hard work. Just like Miss Evelyn said. Clara watched as Mr. McKinley's eyes flickered with uncertainty. They had both taken a step toward his heart. For a moment, she dared to believe he might see their vision. The world doesn't run on dreams, kids, he replied gruffly, but there was a softness creeping into his tone. That evening, Clara and Ethan sat beneath the twinkling stars, the promise of their event swirling in the night air. They were joined by Evelyn, who shared stories from her past. Each tale ignited even more passion within Clara's heart, pushing her to push boundaries. People won't always understand, Evelyn reminded them. You've got to stay true to yourselves. Sometimes, what seems impossible is just a hurdle waiting to be cleared. Her words sparked a realization in Clara. What if we also invited Mr. McKinley? Maybe he could see how much joy this brings. Maybe it could change his mind. Ethan looked surprised. Are you sure he'll come? We won't know if we don't ask, Clara replied, feeling a surge of courage. If he sees the beauty firsthand, he might just change. Ethan finished. Yes. Clara nodded vigorously. The possibilities expanded like morning glories unfurling with the sun. But deep down, Clara's excitement was laced with worry. Would Mr. McKinley truly embrace their vision? What if he dismissed them again, crushing their dream before it could fully bloom? As they plotted their next steps, the night wrapped around them, thick with promise yet shadowed by uncertainty. Tomorrow, they'd put it all on the line. And Clara couldn't shake the feeling that this journey was only beginning. Little did they know, the path ahead would lead them to a revelation that changed everything. What if opening their garden also opened up the hearts of those they feared? Clara awoke the next day with a nervous flutter in her stomach. Today was the day they would invite Mr. McKinley to the Garden of Hope event. She and Ethan had spent hours the night before perfecting their pitch, but the idea of actually facing him made her palms sweat. Are you ready? Ethan asked, bouncing on his heels, as Clara tucked her hair behind her ears. As ready as I'll ever be, she replied, forcing a smile even as a doubt settled in her heart. After a quick breakfast, filled mostly with quiet contemplation, they set out toward Mr. McKinley's home. The sun shone brightly, casting cheerful rays that danced through the trees, but they did little to brighten Clara's anxious thoughts. What if he says no? What if he laughs at us? Ethan paused. But what if he doesn't? What if he sees how much this means to us? We could change everything." He grinned, and for a brief moment, Clara was enveloped in his boundless optimism. When they reached the fence, Clara took a deep breath. Here goes nothing. Knocking on the door felt monumental, as if they were summoning an ancient spirit. They exchanged glances while waiting, the air thick with anticipation. Finally, the door creaked open, revealing Mr. McKinley, still framed in shadows despite the bright day outside. "Back again, are you?" he said, raising an eyebrow, curiosity mingling with skepticism. "Mr. McKinley," Clara started, her voice wavering, but Ethan pushed forward. "We'd like to invite you to the Garden of Hope event this Saturday," he said confidently. "It's a chance to see what we're creating, a place full of life and friendship." Mr. McKinley scrutinized them, his expression curt and serious. "And why would I want to spend my day digging in dirt? Isn't that just a waste of time?" Clara's heart plummeted. "It's about more than just planting. It's about bringing people together." "People?" he repeated, a hint of disbelief in his voice. "You think your little garden will do that?" "Yes," Clara exclaimed, her heart racing. "People from all over the neighborhood are coming. It will be a day of laughter, stories, and connections." She felt the conviction swell inside her, pushing past her fear. "You may not believe it now, but beauty can grow even in the most unlikely places." She took a step forward. "It's about hope, Mr. McKinley. Just like Miss Evelyn said, it might not seem important to you, but it means everything to us." For a moment, the harsh lines of Mr. McKinley's face softened. Clara could see the flicker of a battle waging within him. But then he shook his head, and the softness disappeared. "I don't have time for fairy tales." Ethan shuffled his feet, looking disappointed. Clara felt that familiar tingle of dismay creeping in. "Can you at least think about it?" she asked desperately, searching his eyes for a hint of kindness. "Can you come just to see?" His gaze pierced her, then he turned abruptly, as if an invisible wall had risen up between them. "Don't hold your breath, kids. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but dirt won't change this neighborhood." Clara recoiled, a storm of emotion swirling inside her. They had taken the chance, and yet they had been rejected again. They doubled back from the door, hearts heavy with defeat. "Maybe he'll come around," Ethan said, but his voice lacked conviction. They walked in silence, the weight of Mr. McKinley's words pressing down on them. That afternoon, they returned to Evelyn, who sensed their disappointment immediately. "Did he refuse?" Clara nodded, sinking into a chair. "He doesn't believe in us. He thinks it's all just pointless." "Sometimes the hardest hearts require the most time," Evelyn said gently. "You planted the seed of hope. It will take patience and care to watch it grow." Clara looked at her, hopeful but still uncertain. "But what if it doesn't grow?" "Then you keep watering it," Evelyn replied with a warm smile. "Sometimes, you'll find the greatest transformation comes from the most unexpected places." As Clara pondered Evelyn's wisdom, a thought prickled at the edge of her mind. Perhaps there was something they hadn't tried yet. Something bigger than they imagined. What if there was more to this than the garden? What if their event could break through walls that had been built over generations? As the sun set, Clara felt a flicker of resolve reigniting within her. The fight was far from over, and maybe, just maybe, she was meant to uncover a truth that connected them all. But that meant they had to be willing to dig deeper, and Clara didn't know if they were ready for what lay beneath the surface. Would she be brave enough to find out? The day of the Garden of Hope event dawned bright and warm. Clara stepped outside, taking a moment to breathe in the crisp, lovely air. The sun was bright on her face, and hope flooded her heart. Today wasn't just about flowers. It was about community, resilience, and the chance to show Mr. McKinley that beauty could indeed grow in their little corner of the world. Ethan bounced next to her, his face beaming with excitement. "Clara, look at all the people coming." Families arrived with laughter and chatter, bringing with them homemade treats and gardening supplies. As more neighbors joined, Clara felt the weight of her worries lift, replaced by a warm current of shared camaraderie. They set up the area with colorful signs, tables laden with snacks, and spades ready for planting. "Clara!" called a familiar voice. Evelyn approached, a wicker basket swinging by her side. "I brought cupcakes. Each one has a tiny flower on it, just for flair." She winked, and joy bubbled inside Clara. "Thank you, Evelyn. This is perfect," Clara said, her heart swelling with gratitude. She realized that with every smile exchanged, every story shared, they were laying down roots for something far greater than she'd imagined. As they kicked off the day by planting flowers together, Clara's spirit soared. Children giggled and helped Ethan dig holes, their laughter weaving through the colorful blooms. Each flower they planted felt like a new chapter in their shared story. But just as Clara began to revel in the day, her heart skipped a beat when she spotted Mr. McKinley standing at the edge of the garden. His expression was unreadable, a mix of curiosity and hesitation. Clara felt a rush of anxiety. Would he approach? Would he turn away? Evelyn, sensing the shift, leaned closer and whispered, "It's time to show him what you've created." Together, with shaky resolve, Clara took a deep breath and stepped toward Mr. McKinley. "Mr. McKinley," Clara called, hoping her voice conveyed the warmth of the day. "We'd love for you to join us. Look at all the life we've brought here." He raised an eyebrow, his stature rigid. "I don't think I qualify as a participant in a children's dream." "Please," Clara urged, gesturing to Ethan, who stood a little ways beside her, holding a spade like a trophy. "This is about more than children's dreams. It's a community event meant to remind us all how beautiful life can be, even amidst struggles. It wouldn't be the same without you." A moment hung in silence, like a tightrope stretching between them. Clara's heart raced as she hoped desperately that he might relent. After what felt like a lifetime, Mr. McKinley sighed, his shoulders loosening slightly. "All right, I'll stay for a short while." A collective cheer erupted from the crowd, and Clara beamed at Ethan, whose eyes sparkled with joy. Together, they had turned the tide. As Mr. McKinley interacted with neighbors, Clara saw tension unraveling from his demeanor. There was a softness creeping in, a realization that community thrived when nurtured, not stifled. Ethan giggled as he tugged on Mr. McKinley's arm, coaxing him to plant a flower. "Are you sure you don't want to join in, Mr. McKinley?" Ethan asked, his voice light and innocent. "The more, the merrier." With an unexpected chuckle, Mr. McKinley knelt beside Ethan, awkwardly reaching for the spade. The sight ignited a wave of warmth throughout the garden. Clara felt a shift, a growing bond born of shared dreams and compassion. As the sun began to set, they sat together, dishes of treats laid out around them. Stories flowed, laughter mingling with the sweet scent of flowers filling the air. Mr. McKinley began to speak more freely, sharing glimpses of himself that made Clara realize there was more to him than rigid authority. Hope lingered, stronger than ever, igniting dreams for the future, a future where walls would not dictate their boundaries, where beauty and kindness would flourish in full bloom. At sunset, as the sky transformed into a fiery canvas of colors, Clara knew in her heart that this day had been more than just a community event. It had become a symbol of transformation, a promise that love could indeed thrive amid adversity, a chance at reconciliation among bitter histories. "Thank you for showing us all today," Clara whispered to Ethan, clutching his hand. "You've changed everything." He grinned, and in that moment, they both understood. Together, they would keep pushing forward. The fight for beauty, for love, for hope, it was the very essence of life itself. Their garden was just the beginning, and Clara couldn't wait to see what else might bloom. As the stars twinkled to life above them, Clara felt a renewed surge of determination. There was so much they could still achieve, not just for themselves, but for the world around them. They had taken the first steps together, and indeed, there would be many more to come. Now it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us share this message far and wide. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us how you felt about this inspiring transformation. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this miracle of hope. You need to support us, and this is the moment to show your love. Don't wait not even one more second.